Welcome to Throw Off the Lines. This is Stephanie York, your host, and I am working on, this will be my 51st episode. I was really excited I hit 50 last week, and I just wanted to start talking about some things that I'm noticing are bugging me, which is what this is all about, until I get into some of my other interview episodes that are going to be coming up. I just finished a 4-part series on different types of anger because as I'm talking to people out in the world and recognizing that people are having such visceral, physical responses to things that are happening in the news right now, and it's freezing them. And some of them are feeling like they cannot do anything about it, and they're bottling it up, and then they're exploding like the volcano. And some of them are taking it out on others around them, and we are allowed to be angry. We should be angry when there's injustice in the world. And I never want to tell somebody to not be angry. Angry is absolutely a justified emotion. But it's how we use our anger and absorbing, and shoving it down deep. It doesn't do us any good. And often the reflexive nature of dealing with that kind of anger is not productive, yelling and shouting and screaming. And so the last episode was about constructive anger and not being so frozen by it. So anyways, that goes into that episode if you want to hear more about or study a little. They're very short, so they're easy to listen to. But today I want to talk about something that I'm coming across more and more and more. I was just in Los Angeles over the last 5 days, and I'm meeting with some people I haven't seen for 6+ months. And, everybody is talking about it's like a form of loneliness, and that they're feeling more and more isolated. And this is even people who are going out and spending time around people. Now, not everybody. A lot of my friends are doing really, really well. But, I met up with somebody who is revisiting something that they're very passionate about. And they feel like just jumping back into something that they love. They feel like they're behind. I can certainly relate. I feel like I'm old and I'm about to publish a book, hopefully. And I feel like I'm too old to be doing all this. The imposter syndrome strikes. And when we were younger and optimistic and, we weren't being told we're too old for things, we had a lot of hope and we could try something, and then we had more runway, we had more time. And I'm talking to people who are going out and pursuing passions and following purpose and bumping up against today's episode, which is kind of contrast loneliness. There's a lot of different kinds of lonely out there. There's a lot that are legitimate loneliness. But I'll tell you, 90% of the people I talk to are dealing with some aspect of loneliness. And I know loneliness is an epidemic. We see it, we're getting shoved headlines at us all the time. But what I want to talk about, if you're listening to this episode, is understanding how we're not going to talk about just regular loneliness. We're just going to talk about how contrast loneliness might be working in your life. It absolutely works in mine. I left a very comfy, cushy life and went off to pursue passions and things that make me feel alive again. And my contrast loneliness is I don't fit into suburbia anymore. I don't fit into the quotient of the married couple who is successful and has a nice house and has everything they need. And, my contrast loneliness is I chose this, but it doesn't make it any less. When I talk to my married friends who are, happy or not, doesn't matter. There's a comparison. So that contrast, I feel the comparison, even if it's not said. Sometimes there's passive comments made to me, like, things that would make me feel bad. I don't think they're intentional. They just make me feel bad about the choices I've made recently. They don't make me feel bad for long because I'm very happy with who I am, and I have opportunity to settle down every day. And I'm choosing to continue to pursue pushing myself so I can share that with you. And but the contrast, the loneliness is there. should I still be trying to conform to the married model where I'm just trying to find the best man who can support me, in my instance, a man, or the best person who can support me, and I can be safe and I can be snugged away in what society is telling me is the best place for me to be, safe and sound and warm and comfy. And then I fit in with all the other couples and that. And, by not doing that, I am bucking tradition and I'm outside the lines, and that's going to cause me to have contrast loneliness. So anyways, let's get back to kind of what it is. It's also known as kind of a post-social loneliness, and all of us are online. I find myself on Instagram a little bit more. I've had trouble sleeping. So instead of having my phone readily available at 3:00 in the morning when I wake up, which I have my whole life, I have my phone turned off and outside of my bedroom, and it's not an option for me. I'm not allowed to pick it up. And that's helped so much, because in the middle of the night, I certainly don't need to compare myself to something online. But, the post-social loneliness is the feeling of loneliness that can occur even after spending time with others. It's not just about social media, but it's often when the interaction you've had with people doesn't meet expectations. So a lot of us, or a lot of people, will look at Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're looking at, and we see other people living their version of their best life, and they're putting their best life forward. We all know that. We know that intellectually they are prettying everything up and putting lipstick on it and making it look amazing. But our brain is absorbing it as if, hey, you should be thinner, you should look like that, you should try those things, you're missing out, FOMO, all those things. And depending on your personality style and whether you're having actual loneliness in your relationship or loneliness in your own life, that post-social loneliness can be even more intense. So did you go online to Instagram in order to be fat shamed? Did you go on Instagram to feel like you're old, or you're old, but you don't look like that old lady who's on there who looks too young? And, you didn't sign up for any of that, but you might be feeling that. Also, contrast loneliness, you could go to a friend's event. I'll go to an event, and thankfully I don't see my value in my relationship. I see my value in myself, and I've worked really hard at getting that. But if I go to an event as a single person, this happened to me a lot in my 30s, and there's couples there, I feel excluded. And when I come home, I used to feel that not having a significant other made me less than. It made me outside of the group. It made them view me as less important or risky. And I didn't get invited to stuff frequently. So when I go to an event, I think I'm going to have fun. I'm going to see my friends. I'm going to see these women that are strong and intelligent, and I'm going to connect with them. And then I come home and I have all these yucky feelings. And it's because I went in with a certain expectation and it wasn't met. And I came out, and instead of looking at what good happened and the good interactions that I had, I tend to put a lot more weight on anything bad. Did somebody say something mean to me? Did somebody say something directed at me or make a joke about me, and I internalized it? And so I have to have these conversations with myself and just shut that down and say, you know what? I had a great time. And you know what? I don't have to go home with that idiot, and I don't have to go home to that place, and I get to go home by myself and be happy. So it's kind of learning how to navigate it. And that's a little bit about what this episode is, giving you some tools to manage online or in-person social interactions, so you're not contrasting yourself to, I'm not them, so I'm sad and lonely. No. You are perfectly okay being who you are. You are the only you that is. And we just need to let go of expectations and stop comparing. But it's still happening, and we have to train our brain, because our brain sees the contrast, even if we're saying to ourselves, well, we know that they're not happy in their marriage. But our brain is hearing the snarky comment, and our brain is feeling that we feel ashamed about something. And we just need to move past that. Because it's not about being physically alone, but rather about a sense of isolation or a lack of connection despite being surrounded by other people. And there's tools that you can use. I'm going to do an episode on connection and how to build stronger connections, because I think it's very important that you practice that. Everybody wants friends. Everybody needs people in their lives. And when you reach out and you go and you meet people, everybody's bringing this baggage that is just extra baggage. So let's go into detailing how this is, and then we'll do connection on a different episode. So the unexpectedness of the contrast loneliness makes it feel so much more. Contrast loneliness can be surprising because it happens after a social interaction, not before. So you're not feeling lonely. Maybe you're excited about going to that group event. And I remember I went to a book club, and it was all just women, and they were all married, and I wasn't married. And I was really excited to go, and I showed up, and I had brought beer, and they all had wine. And they didn't want to talk about the book. I read the book. and so I was subtly on the outside. And then the next time we met, I don't think it was the next week. It might have been the next. I brought wine, and they all had champagne. And then the next time I brought champagne, and they all had beer. And nobody called me or told me that they were not drinking what I was bringing. They talked to each other. So I felt afterwards really isolated from the group. After about 5 meetings, I stopped going. And I really, really was looking forward to being a part of a women's group talking about books and things. And I was shocked that I had gone, made the effort, and then when I left, I felt lonelier because of it. And I didn't know why. And it was me comparing myself to these other 4 women who were interacting with each other before I got there. And I didn't say anything about it. So I just kind of stopped going. And I think a lot of people do that. They put in effort, and then it gets hard, and then they have feelings like this contrast loneliness, and then you end up not going back to do things, and that's not going to help. So the disappointment is the feeling can arise from kind of a discrepancy between what you expect from the social interaction and what you actually experienced. For example, you might have expected a deeper conversation or more fun, which is definitely what I expected from the book club. But the interaction was very superficial. And so you're not expecting to feel lonelier after a social event, and you're disappointed because it didn't end or go the way you thought it would. And then you can end up with something called post-event blues. That can also involve a sense of sadness or even a letdown after a social event because you built it up and you were excited about it and you are lonely and you want more friends. Particularly if you were looking forward to it, and if you won't see the people you were with for a while and it doesn't go the way you want it to, but you're disappointed, sad, and you have kind of the blues about it. And then you're kind of stuck because now you're not only where you were, you're a little bit further down in the feelings department. And then, often contrast loneliness stems from unmet expectations, which is that disappointment. And it's either regarding the quality of the interaction or the amount of time spent with others. Sometimes you think you're going to go for a whole meal and they just get together and then make a plan B. All kinds of things can change our expectations of an event. And it's not always about the absence of others. It's important to remember that, contrast loneliness is not simply about the lack of social contact. You can experience it even when you're surrounded by people if the interactions don't satisfy your needs for connection or belonging. So if you go to a larger group event and you really are there to just connect with somebody, a friend, talk to them a little bit, find out how they are and let them find out who you are, do that exchange. And if you go to something and you just feel so left out, you start that cycle of not engaging and then leaving early. So, in essence, contrast loneliness can highlight for you that social interactions don't always translate to feelings of connection, and that loneliness can linger even after spending time with others if it doesn't meet your needs or expectations. So we need to talk about how to figure that out. So in addressing those feelings of loneliness, especially after you've felt this contrast, focus on acknowledging your feelings and find meaningful connections. Maybe you didn't get to talk to your friend at the party, Maybe reach out after the party and say, hey, I know we saw each other, but I really want to catch up. Would you like to grab coffee? Maybe go for what the expectation was and set it up afterwards and get that connection that you really wanted and hoped for, but make that happen for yourself. If you are able to really connect and acknowledge your feelings and seek those connections and practice self-care, you're going to learn to get over this more often. I talk to people who have this contrast loneliness. Oh, I went and did those things. I went to those group dinners. I went to those group dates. And, nothing happened. So I'm just going to give up on going out on those at all. And I know people who are giving up on dating. They're giving up on finding someone, even though they're really lonely and they want a significant other. They've had so much interaction issue that they've given up, and they've just surrounded the whole thing in a shell of disappointment, and they're floating it down the river. And I say that that's not fair to yourself. It's not fair to your life. And it's so rewarding to interact with people. So let's go over some of the things that you can do about it. Consider joining groups or clubs, or volunteering is a huge one. Go down to your local animal shelter and volunteer. You're going to meet people coming in and out. You're going to meet lovely animals. And then you're going to develop a support network of friends and family. When I first was in California, my brother was here with me and we joined a bowling league. We met a bunch of people locally. It's a very Ohio thing to do, which is where I was born. But when you're doing interactions with people consistently through a club or an organization, you're going to make connections. And you never know that your new best friend could be in that group. They might know somebody to introduce you to that you have a connection with on a personal level. You never know. But don't give up on going out. Sometimes contrast loneliness will make us just paint all of our interactions in this negative light, and it kind of explodes the feeling of negativity. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to give you some tools on how to break down how to have better social interactions and try to mute the contrast loneliness that you're feeling from it. So first and foremost, we want to acknowledge and validate your feelings. We're going to hit 5 key components in here. We want you to start to validate yourself and acknowledge what are real feelings and what are feelings that are just compounding on themselves. It's okay to feel lonely. I want you to say that to yourself right now. Feeling lonely, even after one of these interactions, feeling judged, any of those things, they're normal because that's the way our world is built. We're taught that we're not allowed to be alone. Alone is a bad place to be. If you enjoy your own company, that's okay, but you wouldn't be listening to this if you were fine with being lonely. We want to find ways for you to interact more with other people out in the world. So, feeling lonely is a common human experience, but we don't want loneliness to be your primary feeling. I'm alone frequently, but I am never lonely. I have a lot of things that engage my time, and I really like myself, but I've worked really hard at that. So understand that being lonely is fine. It's not anything to be ashamed of, but allowing yourself to continue to cycle through contrasting your loneliness to others or your life to others, that's the unhealthy behavior. So don't dismiss or try to force yourself to feel differently. Don't pretend to be happy. If, you see somebody say, hey, I needed to get out of my house. It was getting lonely in there, Being honest and vulnerable can be okay if you feel comfortable with that. Recognize that loneliness can stem from various sources, including comparing yourself to others or feeling isolated. So being lonely is something I want you to acknowledge. I'm lonely. And then start to make a plan to do something about it. That's what my book is all about. So be truthful with yourself before, during, and after any social interaction. Now, we all have expectations. I get really excited to go to the book club. I read the book. I bring the beer. I'm like, I want to fit in. And my expectations were I was going to have some good conversations about the book and meet some new women and get to know them. And that just didn't happen. And I gave up and I walked away. I have yet to go to a book club since then. In fact, I probably have painted them all with a very wide brush. But do you have expectations about the event and the people before you go? And if you do, write them down. Which ones are good? Which ones are bad? Is it going to be all couples and you're single? When I go, because I'm single now, if I'm going to go to an all couples, event, I'm just going to go and have a good time and talk to people about my interests. I'm very comfortable in my own skin, and I have great conversations with people. I go in with almost no expectations other than I'm going to have great conversations, but it took me a while to get here. Are your expectations, I'm going to meet my new best friend. I'm going to have the best time ever. They're going to be really exciting, and it's going to be great to see them, and we're going to have great long talks. And, are your expectations realistic? Can you go in with a simple, just a simple expectation? I want to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to talk to 2 people, and if I get more than that, it's going to be fantastic. Are you expecting a certain outcome? Because I talk to people who go to these dating things, and they'll go to a group dinner and they didn't hit it off with anybody at the group dinner. And they're like, oh, those don't work. And I say, well, that was just maybe not your group. Let's get you to another one and let's go and see if you can connect with somebody at that. The expectation at this point is to get out of your house, so you're not stuck all by yourself in your house. So, if that's your only expectation is just to get my butt out of my chair, off my couch, out of my bed, and get somewhere, then boom, you met your expectation. Expectations met, everything else is, as my brother says, gravy on the mashed potatoes. So let's expect a lower outcome, and then everything that happens out from that is great. It releases you from carrying the weight of expectation. If you just are like, my expectations get out of my house and to go somewhere, and when I get there, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself. I mean, I've gone to events where I've been very much on the outside, and I just use it as like a science experiment. I start looking at everybody in the room. I imagine what their interactions are with each other. I try to see the different types of couples and the different types of people that are there. And I'm just fascinated by everybody. So I have a really good time, and I might talk to 2 people. I mean, I'll talk to a lot of people, but I only really interact. And if I was only going there to have a new best friend, that would have been very disappointing. But I assessed the situation and said, well, this isn't really for me. But I can have a lot of fun watching these people interact with each other. And I mean, try it. The social experiment is a lot of fun when I'm at an event that I have no expectations for. So while you're at an event, okay, we've got very low expectations for this event. I'm out of the house. My butt is no longer in my chair at my desk. And while you're at it, look for good things going on. Is the music nice? Is the space well decorated? Does everybody look good? Did people put in effort to look as nice as they could? How's the feeling all around? What's the vibe like? Do you feel like everything's on point? They've set a good mood? How does the food look? What are good things that are happening? Did you get a drink that you really liked? I'm all about non-alcoholic cocktails, and I'll tell you what, these bartenders make amazing cocktails, and they have all kinds of layers of flavors in them, and it's so much fun. So when I get a good one of those, mojito is my go-to. I'm having a good time already. So I just go and get my NA cocktail, my mocktail, and I already got one good thing to count. And then maybe you have a great interaction with somebody, and that's a good thing. When you go in looking for good things, the bad things bounce off that. If you go in anxious and nervous and your expectations are already being sunk the minute you walk in the door, oh, there's no single guys here. Oh, it's only couples. Oh, the lighting is bad. Oh, there's not even any food. Or, whatever you're grumbling about. It's going to be really hard to feel a good vibe. It's going to be really hard to leave that and not contrast because you're walking in with a bowl full of negatives. So remember, really low expectation. Your expectation is to get your butt out of the chair. Walk in, look for 3 good things that are happening at the event, things that you can latch onto and say, this is a really good cocktail. This is really good music. Look, everybody looks really nice. I'm having a good time. This is a great place to be. I'm not stuck at home. And you've made this effort to go out, so just embrace it. And, are there things that you can acknowledge more that are good there? Now, I'm going to add a caveat onto that is if you walk in and it is not your vibe and it is not your place, whatever is happening, the music is off, you see your ex across the room, you aren't feeling it, leave. And I always tell all of my friends and clients, you have every right and all of my permission to leave an event if you're not feeling it. Maybe that day you're really vulnerable and you are pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. You got out of your chair, you got dressed up, and you walked in, and maybe you're dressed completely differently than everybody else. You didn't know it was a super fancy event, or you went super fancy and everybody's super casual. You are, by all means, allowed to leave that event. You have all my permission. So just like we're giving ourselves permission to walk in with little to no expectation to look for 3 good things, you are allowed to leave if you're just not feeling it. And then as soon as possible after the event, whether you left early, you stayed late, whatever, write down or note the good things that went on. Even if you had a terrible time, maybe you bumped into your ex and they were mean to you and you were mean back and people saw it and you walk out, write down the good things, because if we only focus on the negative, we'll never remember, see, or register the good that happened. And it makes it harder to go out the next time. Plus, when you make a list of at least 3 good things, and it could be as simple as the weather was warm, the coffee was great. It doesn't matter. You are now allowing your mind to see that the event has both good and bad. It weighs it more evenly, where your brain might have acknowledged, I felt vulnerable, and then I felt like I was in a fight and I felt shame, whatever. You're also going to say, yeah, but I had an amazing mocktail and it was so sunny out and the band was incredible. So on the win, I got some good stuff in there. That balance is going to let your brain not worry as much at the next event. And you'll be able to go in with a lower expectation set. So make sure after the event, you write down all the good things you can remember and then write down anything bad that happened. Really big things like meeting someone who's doing that thing you want to try. You're going to meet people and have amazing interactions if you go out and push through and start looking for good things. Good things are going to come to you. And then the negative stuff is going to get easier and easier to not even notice. It'll roll off your back like water off a duck's back. So rank the things you might not have liked, top to bottom. Look at the list. How bad were they on a scale of 1 to 10? Blew up in front of the entire party with my ex? That might be near like an 8. Falling down in front of everybody and splitting my knee open and going to the hospital, that might be a 10 for bad things that happened at an event. Happened to a friend of mine recently. But let's rank the good and the bad. The bad things. If we rank them 1 to 10, 10 being just horrible and 1 being, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but I don't care. And then all the good things that happened, by being able to rank them, you're able to see, what did I have the power and control over? If somebody said something mean to me and that felt like a 7 or a 6, I have no control over that person saying something mean to me. And now I know that person is not my ally. They're not my friend. And they have all kinds of feelings going on inside of them that have nothing to do with me. So we're able to piece apart the bad stuff. So by doing this question and awareness framing, you can start to see if you are building up bad things to overshadow any good things that happened. Frequently when we're stressed, like going to an event, as many people are, a lot of people are pushing through their loneliness right now and pushing out of their safe space, which is the couch and the desk and the place where we have all of our stuff. We tend to weigh the perceived negatives much more heavily than any good things. And we get into a negative thought habit. And I talk to some of my clients that, I don't want to go and do this interaction in the sales environment because it never goes well. And these people they all just want to eat free food, blah, blah, blah. And I say, you're kind of washing every event in the future based on events you've had in the past. And we need to break them down because these micro interactions are building up into one big negative ball. But in the micro interactions, they really had nothing to do with each other. So they don't belong connected to each other. So let's allow your brain to not stay addicted to the stress hormones and not allow you to shut down future event invites and not allow you to walk in with this bag of expectations and instead walk in just hoping for the best, knowing you already won, you already left your house. And then we're going to try and break that lonely and often unhappy cycle that people get stuck in. So let's talk about some other ways to build and strengthen social connections. We talked about groups and clubs. Absolutely, you've got to push yourself. What are some interests? Do you like pottery? Do you like reading books? There's tons of online book clubs too. And that we don't have to meet with people in person to fight contrast loneliness. We just need to not be scrolling through other people's curated perfect pictures that make us feel bad about ourselves. We need to have things that help us feel happier and more engaged and not lonely because we aren't living those lives. Those people, they're doing that as a job. So we need to get away from that. Again, volunteering, helping others can foster a huge sense of connection and purpose. Going and helping out with puppy shelters again. Or I was delivering meals to the elderly who were in their home, and they would shout down from balconies and windows at me, and I got to know them. And I mean, it's so fun helping deliver meals to people's houses and going and getting them prescriptions and stuff. Reach out to your family and friends. Not enough people reach out to their cousins if you like your family and friends. Make an effort to connect with people. When I travel overseas, I frequently would try to make an effort 3 times a week to have a phone call with a family or friend, family member or friend, so that I had that interaction and they knew I wasn't that far away. Because it seems like when I travel outside of the country, people think I'm on another planet. They just dismiss me as somebody they can even interact with. And then be proactive in initiating conversations. And this can be difficult. And, don't wait for others to reach out. You might not know what to say. Plan what you're going to say. Write out a little script. What do you want to talk about? Okay, I want to talk about, I got a new haircut. I want to talk about how everybody seems to be sick right now. Steer clear of religion and politics. And maybe ask how their parent is doing if it's a relative, and initiate to engage with people that you encounter. Say hi and smile at people. I swear it starts some of my favorite conversations. Look up from your phone. Look at people. Smile and say hi. We all need this. And when I do this, people look at me and they're like, oh, hi. And they're so happy. Everywhere I go, interactions are so much more pleasurable. And we all need to engage with each other a lot more often. And then another thing we need to think about, and I always stress this, is self-care and absolutely self-compassion. I work with a lot of people in recovery, and self-compassion is the number one thing. We beat ourselves up and we live in shame, and that is so isolating. So engage in activities you enjoy. So make time for hobbies, interests, and pursuits that you really want to do. If you like hiking, join a hiking group. If you want to like hiking more, join a hiking group. Join a knitting circle. A lot of my friends, because we're now in this old age bracket, they're knitting more. So go to somebody's house and learn how to knit better. If you really like to collect rocks, do something that you enjoy. If you don't know what activities you enjoy, look back to when you were anywhere from 10 to 20. What were the things that you did that you loved that you could resurrect interest in? Did you love Mayan civilization? Did you love fan fiction? Was there a certain author that you really liked? Go and find out information about that person. But you need to bring joy back into your life. And the more you pursue interests, the more interesting conversations you have to offer to people when you're out there meeting them at social events. And then you're impacting this in a positive light. You might be the good thing somebody writes about after they leave an event. And then prioritize your physical health. I cannot stress this enough. You cannot process stress and make changes in your life if you're not healthy. So get enough sleep, eat nutritiously, exercise all the time. Practice mindfulness, focus on the present moment, kind of accept your thoughts and feelings without judgment. I feel lonely. I'm not judging myself about that. I felt like that event didn't go well for me, and I'm going to think twice before I go to a singles dinner or a group dinner with just couples. And then be kind to yourself. I'm going to have a whole nother podcast episode on self-speak because I think it's incredibly important right now that we all have the right things that we're saying to ourselves. Our brain will register things it hears out of our mouth. And whether you believe it or not, if you're saying it to yourself or feeling it about yourself, your brain is registering it. So we need to plug in good things. And then please manage your online interactions. Use social media wisely. Set timers on your phone. You can have it pop up after 5 minutes on Instagram, pops up and says you've been on for 5 minutes, and you'll be shocked how fast 5 minutes goes by. And then stick to that. If you're feeling like, I've got to stay on here, put it down for a minute, get up, walk around, go eat an apple. I don't care. Walk around the block, come back, and then see if you still want to interact with it. It is an addictive algorithm. So that pull to stay on, they're using your brain's natural tendencies to keep you addicted to seeing and scrolling. The only way to break that is to put it down and walk away from it. Just like when I work with people in recovery, when they have a craving, walk away from the craving, keep yourself busy for 20 minutes. That craving can go away after that. You can combat that. And don't compare yourself to others online. Let's go back to that self-speak. What do you like about yourself? What do we know to be true about these other people? Very little outside of the visual that they're giving us. And remember, it's a very, very curated version of reality, if it's even reality. And then consider disengaging from online platforms when you are feeling overwhelmed. I don't care. Watch a great British Bake Off. That's what I do when I'm tired and my brain needs to rest. Do something that is easy and not overwhelming, and disengage and break the cycle and focus on real life connections. If you're feeling like I've been online too much today, I've been on Reddit and Facebook or whatever sites you're on, shut it down. Call a friend. Go to a coffee shop. Go somewhere else. Get a book, a physical book, and start reading it. It's really important. And always, 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 I cannot stress to you enough, consider professional help. If you're struggling with persistent feelings of loneliness and comparison, consider seeking professional help. A therapist can really help. And honestly, your family doctor can help refer you to resources. They themselves can often help you. Don't sit in this alone, okay? Contrasting ourselves to other people is so common right now. We are all doing it. We're being forced to do it every time we pick up our phone, and we're all walking around with our phone inside our house now. I watch people who don't put their phone down all day, and we need to get away from that. So, quick recap, ask yourself what your expectations are. Just to get out of the house? Great, you did it. To find new friends? All right, what are we going to do to find new friends? To meet someone, to date? Great. If that's your expectation, you don't have to tell anybody. Hold it close in your heart and say, I want to meet somebody at this event tonight, and start looking at people. But again, if you're uncomfortable, get out. Create an escape plan. I tell my people who are trying to go out and push themselves into uncomfortable situations, if you feel anxious, then figure out a limit and what you will do if you reach it. So, for example, I'll go and meet 3 new people and then I'll leave. And they love that because it gives them permission. I have people who go to networking business events and I'm like, okay, go meet 3 people and then you're allowed to leave. And they go in and they're having so much fun meeting 3 people. They usually meet 5, so and it works because then you realize, I was having all these negative feelings before I went and they were all dispelled. And then we talk about it when we're coaching. And then, I'll go for 1 hour and then I'll leave. That's a really good one. And then if you know you want to leave after that hour, give yourself permission, but what will you say to leave? We need to have an exit escape plan. I have to get home to take care of my dog or cat. I've got to go and catch up with my friend quick. Oh, my mom called. I got to call her back. Go in knowing that that's your exit strategy, and it'll really help a lot because you won't be anxious. How am I going to get out of this? You'll just get out of it. And then afterwards, remember, write down the highs and lows of the event so you can be clear about the level of good that you experienced and the level of bad. And then you're less likely to catastrophize the entire event and give your brain a reason to not let you go anymore. And then plan the next one. Grow your wings. Plan another event to go out and practice this on. it is in discomfort that we find our true selves and push past, and we stop comparing ourselves to the world. You're going to feel uncomfortable, but go in with a strategy. And you're wonderful the way you are. You're not changing who you are, and the outside world knows who you are and what you look like, so don't worry so much about yourself. Everybody else is so worried about themselves that they're not worried about you. And just go and give yourself permission to just having gone to the event is all the expectations you had. And then just know that you need to really embrace this life, embrace a little bit of discomfort. I know a lot of people are saying that out there, but push through, because your brain's going to shut it down and it wants to protect you. It's in survival mode, but survival mode gets you lonely, and we don't want to be lonely anymore, because that is really hard. So I wish for you to get out and fight off the contrast loneliness, get these tools together. Send me a question if you have any. And I look forward to doing the next podcast. Take care. Thank you for joining me on Throw Off the Lines. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for future episodes and extras, and leave a review. Share it with someone who needs a total inspiration. You can also find us on Facebook or Instagram and our Throw Off the Lines website. If you want to be a guest or have questions for the host, sign up on the website and we'll get back to you. Until next time, throw off those lines and live your best life.